Hey guys, this is Stephen Puth. I just did an interview with the Zach Sang Show, and we talked about my new single, Look Away, and all the processes behind writing a song. Check it out.
Let's do this. Zach Sang Show.
Hello, beautiful human. We got Dan here.
Yo.
We welcome to the studio. Stephen Puth.
Oh, yeah.
Hello. That's fun. I feel like I'm on a panel right now, like a panoramic panel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a focused thing.
So
It's literally I'm centered to it. So
Yeah.
it's like I have to make sure to not do anything random.
You are our focus.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, because you're the guest.
You're my
and
focus.
That means a lot. Thank you so much. Stephen Puth. By the way, obvious thing right out the gate. You are a sibling to Charlie Puth.
This may be the case, yeah.
I think that's how your family was assembled. But you are a twin and you are younger than Charlie.
Yes, and I'm actually the younger twin too, technically.
So you're the youngest of the family.
In a sense. Maturity too, yeah, I'd say so.
By the way, I had no idea that you were younger than Charlie. I've known your sister since the first time we met Charlie, and I thought for years that she was older. Not the case.
Yeah, the oldest is not the most mature, and the youngest is, in fact, the least mature. So then there's the middle, which is Mikhail, so yeah,
Question.
the most mature.
Do you consider yourself the least mature, or has that been like a title that's been bestowed upon you?
I think 50-50. I think in some sense, I'm definitely the one to speak with better words and higher vocabulary, even though that sentence was questionable. And but and so in one sense you're like, wow, like Steven can come off really smart sometimes and he's mature, and then other times you evaluate my common sense and you're just like, wait, how could he say something like that and then do something like that? They're very polar opposite.
So you're book smart but not street smart?
That is even up for debate. I wouldn't even call myself book smart. I guess define smart. No, but yeah, no, it truly depends. In some cases I can be, I can just pull out random facts and like trivial knowledge, and you'll be like, wow, he's not that dumb actually. And then yeah, sometimes I'll have really good street sense, and then other times it's like just completely off.
Is your immaturity an asset as you navigate the music industry, but also at the same time you learn a ton of stuff?
See, that's the thing. I wouldn't even call it immaturity necessarily. I think it's just development of experience. And yeah, I mean, I've only been doing this since I graduated college, like with the intent of I want to make this a living. Before, music was just an escape of I don't want to write this essay, or I just don't want to go out tonight. I just want to play the guitar. And I guess, yeah, 22, like graduated. So May 2016, I was like, I want to do music full time. And I had been teaching myself production my last year of school. And I'll be honest, some of the beats were not good. They were actually pretty bad. But it was all experience and growth. And I think the immaturity side of things, if we call it that, is just rather me learning through the process and learning what to do, what not to do, and how the result can be sometimes immature.
So music in your life starts early. You teach yourself how to play guitar, right?
Well, even before that, we all grew up playing piano. So that was, I think, at like age 3 or 4.
Did you learn how to play piano, or did you teach yourself?
No, like our mom taught us for a pretty good bit, and then we had other teachers like supplemented in and out. And it was always required in school. Had to be an orchestra, jazz ensemble, or whatever. And then every day after school, piano lessons. It was a quick way to learn to really dislike piano. And I started to not like it because I wanted to go, like I played ice hockey. At one point I was like, I'm going to be a professional ice hockey player. I wasn't that good. I think a lot of my friends can vouch for that. And, but I just really liked sports growing up, and music was always getting in the way of the sports. But then over time, the balance between the two, I stopped playing piano, and in high school, I was like, I don't want to do this, and I was like, I'm going to teach myself guitar. So that's when I taught myself guitar.
So you give up piano for sports, and then sports you realize is not the thing for you?
No. I was not allowed to give up piano. Let's make that abundantly clear. No, when I went to high school, I went to a boarding school. So therefore, someone couldn't say to me, you have to sit down and practice the piano today. But also the schedule was physically impossible to make time to, I'm just going to go casually practice. Like, your day was booked to the minute in boarding school. And I physically didn't have time. The only time I could play piano was in orchestra. And in orchestra, there was a better piano player. So I was playing the xylophone and the timpani. So it was not fun. So I picked up guitar because, I couldn't have a piano in my dorm room. So I was just like, I had a guitar, and I had kind of taught myself the year before going into high school, but not really. And I was just it was just a hobby, more or less. And then sports were always there too. So it's like you would go to school, right? And then after school, and by the way, school is like Monday through Saturday, not Monday through Friday, through Saturday.
That's the boarding school schedule?
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
Whoa.
So everything's just dialed to the minute.
Why'd you choose to go to boarding school?
Because I do like school, or did. I don't know if I do like school. I did like school. I was a good student through middle school. Like, I'd never studied and just got good grades. And then I went to this school, and it was so hard that I couldn't do that anymore. And then I learned that I really wasn't that gifted at school. I actually had to work hard, and I struggled the first couple of years. And then eventually my grades got better. But it was also just learning how to balance time between everything.
Yeah, because that's a lot. If you're going to school 6 days a week and you still got sports there and you're trying to fit in music.
Yeah, it was tough.
Your brain never stops.
Yeah, so you essentially only had one night off. Like, to put it through like it's like you wake up, 7 o'clock, everyone has to go to breakfast together, sit down, jacket and tie, like Harry Potter stuff.
What?
Yeah, and then you go to classes, then you have lunch, same thing, and then classes end, 3 or 4, something like that. Everybody has to go do a sport. It was required by the school. And then after that, you had to go do dinner together after practice. And then after that, you had study hall until, I think, like 10 o'clock or something. And then you had like 30 minutes, and then you had to be in bed by 10:30, 11.
And you voluntarily went to boarding school?
Hindsight's 20/20.
But what do you learn from it? Because I'm sure
structure.
You're shaped. That had to have shaped you somehow today.
I think so, because I was growing up. A lot of things came natural in an academic sense, where it was like, okay, you have a test about XYZ, whatever it may be, and I would like read the book maybe once, and then I would go take the test, and I'd be fine. And then high school, it wasn't like that. It was like I failed out of the Latin program in high school. I tried to take Latin, and it was like, I think at the time it was like one of the #1 Latin programs in the country. And that's when I learned, I was like, okay, in order to actually be good at these things, you have to structure yourself.
It's a dead language, don't worry.
Right, yeah. But I mean, to segue it into music, I kind of learned the ability of, if I want to do something, I have to develop some sense of structure to actually approach it. It's not just middle school biology anymore, you know?
And what happens in your life that sparks that in you senior year of high school to sit down and start learning how to produce a record?
Senior year of college. So this is another.
Yes. Oh my God! So this is like 4 years later from where we're at right now.
This is a process.
Okay, so you go through high school, you go to college, because that's right. You were gonna do business, right?
Yeah, actually, I had a couple internships that turned into like executive assistant jobs in finance. I worked at a place that traded exchange-traded funds in New York, where I actually took time off from school to work there because I was so like dead set, gung-ho, if you will, on wanting to, I guess, relive the idea of the Wolf of Wall Street. And turns out you have to actually, there are certain qualifications, like being good at math, something that I'm actually not that great at doing. But
by the way, I think that's like a mindset shared by a lot of people who grew up in New Jersey and on the East Coast.
100%.
Like this idea that all the dudes wanted to make a ton of money, wanted to live this crazy Wolf of Wall Street life, and like work on Wall Street, work at BlackRock, make a ton of money.
Yeah.
Dude, I grew up with all of them. Not many of them or any of them actually do it that I actually graduated with, because you're right, it's hard. It's more than just appearances and materialistic things.
Right. Someone had described to me once, because I was trying to get a job from him. He was like, the way that finance swings, it's like every 10 years, people will either be like, we need math guys, we need quant guys. Or then like every so often they'll be like, we need business sales guys, creative people to actually talk to, normal people. And there's always been this balance of it kind of swings the pendulum either way over time. And right now, I mean, because we're in a technological age, it's like we're in a very statistic-driven world. And therefore, if you want to work in finance in New York, you probably need to know, you at least need to know what regressional analysis is. And I still don't even know what that is, but I've heard it a couple times, so it sounds fancy.
So you realize that this is not a job for you because you're not cut out for it. It's hard. It's a different type of gig. When do you turn to music fully?
I turned to music fully my last year of college, and I think there was that, because I majored in history and English. Talk about, all over the place, right?
Yeah.
But I'll never forget, it was like the last day I was working in this finance situation. And I was talking to this guy, he traded options, he'd been there for a while. And he said to me, at the end of the day, life's just about getting up and pushing through and going to work, putting your head down. And it sounded so sad. But he made a point in the sense that sometimes you don't want to wake up and go to work. And in my mind, I was like, I don't want to, this is like 21-year-old me at the time. I'm like, I don't want to live a life like that. That sounds miserable. And I went back to school, and I was sitting there, and I was not really sure what I wanted to do. And I didn't get an internship in finance or a job offer. So I wound up coming out here and worked for a couple labels and saw the business side. And I was like, okay, music business. It's almost like finance. I think it's great. I love music. And then turns out I'm terrible at that too. But the great thing that happened was I met this guy named DJ Frankie, who I actually was in the studio with a couple days ago. And when I was an intern, he said to me, he was like, hey, can you stay back? Like, just to any of the interns. I was the only one who said yes. This was at the end of the day. He started his work at like 7 p.m. And he was like, can one of you guys stay back? And like, I'll probably need food or coffee. I was like, I'll stay back. And I walked into his studio, and it was like the weirdest feeling, but it was awesome. And I spent that following summer learning how to kind of visually produce, where I wasn't actually touching anything, but I was watching his workflow. And for some reason, it was Pro Tools in particular, which is the program to produce in. He pulled up a couple other ones that he can work in, but that one just made the most sense to me. And that's when like music kind of triggered, where I was like, wait, so all the guitar playing that I do, and I can actually make my own songs. It was like kind of that sudden realization.
Beautiful human. Real quick, I got to tell you about home cooking made simple. HelloFresh makes cooking delicious meals at home a reality, regardless of your comfort in the kitchen. They're giving you step-by-step recipes, giving you pre-measured ingredients. You're going to have everything you need to make a wow-worthy dinner, like get that dinner on the table in 30 minutes. A lot of wow-worthy meals take a long time, but not with HelloFresh, so break out of your dinner rut with their 17 seasonal chef-curated recipes each week. There's something for everybody, from family recipes to calorie-smart stuff and vegetarian, and you can get fun menu series like Hall of Fame and craft burgers. HelloFresh is flexible, and it fits your lifestyle. You can add extra meals to your weekly order, as well as yummy sides like garlic bread and cookie dough. I am just going to order the cookie dough. If you want to try out HelloFresh, I'll give you $80 off your first month. That's a pretty good deal. If you're in, go to HelloFresh.com/ZachSang80 and enter the code ZachSang80. It's a fresh meal. Hello. What year is this? Like, what year?
So that was going into my final year of college.
Got it.
So going into my final year, I had this motivation of, I really want to somehow figure out this music thing. And I said that to my family, and they were like, my brother was actually like, he's like, great, I'll buy you Pro Tools. He's like, but this can't be something that you like for 3 weeks and then you throw it out, like, because it's an expensive program. He's like, you actually have to do it. He's like, I'm going to buy it, the rest is on you. And like, so my grades that year were not that great in college, by the way, because I was spending all my time. I felt like I couldn't let anyone down, where I was like, I really want to figure this out, including myself. And when I would come home from breaks, I would show my family stuff, or I'd show him stuff, and then Charlie would show me like, oh, do this instead. And like, but he's actually terrible at teaching. It's just watching, that's how you learn with him. You just watch what he does. He can't explain it. He'll just do it. And so again, it was kind of using my eyes like before with DJ Frankie. That's how I kind of learned as time progressed.
Got it.
Yeah, it's tricky.
So, no, I'm just trying to like get a handle on the whole story, because it is fascinating. Because while you're living this life and you're doing college, right, and you're trying to explore this life in business, and I'm sure you're doing stuff in the music business after, New York and the Wall Street thing doesn't work out. Charlie does have his own career that's kind of running parallel to all of this, right? Like as this is all happening, so is his rise at the same time. Yeah,
this was before and the beginning of all the official rise, I guess. It was like my senior year. So that's 2015, 2016 for him.
So you feel the pressure of having to make this work because he's invested money, your whole family's now involved in it all. Where you stand right now, is it all working out?
I mean, I think there's always that good sense of pressure where I always feel like I have to push myself. A, as the little brother, but B, also for my own ego, like to actually just be satisfied. Because I guess this is a good way to explain it. When I was signed as a writer, I was doing the Monday through Friday, writing a new song. Hi, nice to meet you. Let's write a song type thing. Mm-hmm. The circus, if you will. And I wasn't really good at that because I was so new. I was just kind of thrown into it where it was pretty quick. And it was kind of deterring to stay motivated because you wind up writing about the same song, running out of inspiration. So it's like taking that moment of when I stopped doing that Monday through, 8 days a week grind type feel, where I actually would evaluate or focus little things to push myself where, okay, I'm going to spend this week just figuring out how to do this in Pro Tools. And it might not seem like a lot, but it would then make me go, okay, I want to go write another song now because now I'm happy again. Because it's easy to just get caught in, another day at the office type feel.
Yeah, and write a song, move on.
Yeah, and I wanted to avoid that.
So the way of avoiding that is doing it for yourself on your own schedule when you want to do it.
Right, but also getting involved with the song as much as possible. Yes, write the song, or maybe you don't write the song and maybe you're just producing it, or maybe you tweak a couple things, but not trying to put your hands on everything, but just trying to be involved with everything.
What record were you showcasing to even get the opportunity to write for other artists? Because that's like a hard thing to even get into the flow of. To get opportunities to be in the room with people, to write any record is a big one.
So this is it's not a terribly long-winded story, but it kind of explains it. So when I came out here after college, it's not like I just immediately hit the ground running. I want to be a writer. My parents were like, you need to have some sort of job, but you need to move out there, go figure it out. So they were like, just go. And I wound up interning at Interscope. And I was a terrible intern because it was all very administrative.
Yeah.
And I would sit there and I would like try to like just low key like make beats or something. And it wasn't the best decorum for an office space where they want you to be focused on their objectives, not what you want to do on your time. But the first couple of weeks that I had been interning there, I had made one song in New York. And it was pretty good. It was like the first thing that I actually got to see come to life. We just wrote a chorus the first time, then I produced around it, and then the verses and the rest of the song was magically done. And no one had cut it, by the way. This was just between me and two other writer-producers who I'd met for the first time.
Okay, in New Jersey.
This was in New York.
New York.
But yeah, I mean, they actually did come to New Jersey one day to work on it. But that's how motivated I was. A song that had no artist cut, like no artist interested. I just wanted to finish it because it was the first time I was co-writing. So when I came out here, that was pretty much the only song I had to show for with my name. And I actually, one of my first meetings was with this guy named Austin Rosen.
I don't know.
Austin manages, it's this company called Electric Feel. He manages Post Malone.
Oh, cool.
And Brian Lee, Lewis Bell. So I don't know how that happened, but it was like I got a text message. He was like, hey, come to this address. And hey, this is so-and-so. It's just like, come here. And I was like, what? So I just went, and then he was like, I really like this song. And by the way, this song never came out. Nothing came to it. But he introduced me to an artist he was working with at the time named Conrad Sewell. And
He's cool.
yeah, really cool. And this is, by the way, 3 or 4 weeks into my internship at Interscope. I'm working with Conrad, and it's cool because I never got to work with an artist. That was the first time. And it was pretty clear that I like wasn't seasoned enough to just produce in the session and write with him. So one day he was like, hey, like, just come here to this address. It's the producer's house. And I was like, cool. And I drive there. It's in, well, I won't say where it is, but it was somewhere. And I like pull up to this place, and I just see this. It's like a compound, and it's just, I don't know where I am. I just moved to LA. Like, I've never been to this part. And I knock on the door, and Scott Storch is right, just standing right there. And it was really like in my mind, because I mean, he pretty much, his music defined my like middle school career. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, am I at the right house? Trying to hold it together. And he's like, hey. And I was like, hey, I'm here for the Conrad session. And then like walk in, and yeah, I mean, from there we stayed up. This was like at 9 o'clock at night. And like we stayed up till like 5 a.m. or something and just busted out a couple songs. And watching him like produce, that was kind of crazy, because I mean, just the way he played the keys, but also he would tell stories in between. And then on top of it, like Conrad's got this really strong voice, and it was all motivating, because I was like, I really want to do music now. I just had a night like that, and there'll be more nights like that. So then the internship kind of continues, but also fizzles out because I start writing more. And then Christmas comes, and nothing's happened actually on paper. And my parents are like, okay, like, what are we doing here? And then I meet this other guy.
Okay.
His name's Julian Bonetta, and he is a writer-producer. He invites me to this camp in the desert. I come back, and I have like 4 publishing offers.
Whoa.
2 were mainly firm. The other 2 were like, we're going to make a contract, and just kind of fizzled out. And I don't know how, but that, like, after that camp, that became like the moment.
So that's a validating moment for you to keep going, that you're on the right path. You're doing what you know now that you're meant to do.
Right.
That's pretty wild.
It's like every minute that I felt like I was failing, something like that would pop out of nowhere. And I think it was, I mean, part of it was probably just the fact that I'd keep working through it, but then also just maybe some of it's luck. And yeah, and one of my last publishing meetings, well, what I thought was a publishing meeting, was actually a record deal offer.
And is that with Arista?
Yeah.
And that's where you're at today?
Yeah. So, and I actually said no the first couple times.
Why?
Because I didn't like the idea. To be honest, I mean, just nervous. I've never performed. I've never played in front of anyone before. I like the idea of being the guy behind the scenes. And yeah, David from Arista was like, no, I think you should be an artist. And I was like, no. And then the second time, he's like, I think you should come out. I was like, no. And then the third time, he's like, come to New York. I was like, all right. Like,
how does that conversation go with your family? Like, when you tell them that you're going to be the star, the focus,
well,
the artist?
Yeah, I guess part of it was not that surprising, in the sense, like, you have the ability, now you're being put to the test. But then the other part was kind of like, okay, but you still need to develop your skills. And I feel like the last year especially, I've kind of been doing both, where it's like I'm being thrown into this artist mix, but I still have to become a better writer and definitely have to become a better producer. But I think recognizing what my strengths and what my weaknesses are, it allows me to, I'm learning at my own pace, where it's like, I don't think I should wait until I've mastered the craft of writing, because God knows how long that could take. That could take 2 lifetimes.
You
Who knows?
could never do it, yeah.
So in my mind, I'm just like, okay, well, if I do it, like, what's the worst thing that happens? It doesn't work out, and then I can go back to writing. And I'll always still be writing. I'll still occasionally, I'll still do sessions with other artists or just writers, and just writing things just because I want to write things. They don't have to necessarily be for me.
But is there no pressure on your shoulders, being that, like, you are related to Charlie, and Charlie's beyond, I don't want to. Maybe the word prolific is too soon to use, but dude knows what he's doing clearly, and he obviously sets a tone, and he sets a unique sound that other people then follow.
Right. Pressure. I don't think pressure is the right word in the sense. I think expectation of like how I see my own music. You know, I mean, I'm technically signed with him for publishing, so I show him everything, and it's like he's obviously going to be like the biggest critic because but it's good though because it raises my standard. Now it's like when I write a song, emotionally detaching myself, being like, not everything I write has to be like, at first sometimes when I would write a song, I'd be like, this is great, it has to come out, and then the voice of reason comes into play, where he'll be like, no, this is not good, or like, you got to change this, or what happens if you did this, and it's just pure editing more or less. And I don't think it's pressure because I think that's an asset. And I have that on my side where, you know, I think what's cool, I mean, looking at Look Away, I mean, he did produce it and he did write it with me. And like, but he was guiding the ship in the sense he has an idea of what my sound could be. I had the idea of, I like the surf rock feel, the first couple songs, because that's the music I like listening to, like old school, like T-Rex, Van Morrison, like that era. And that's great. That's cool. But like he heard another sound design in mind. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to say no. Like he's my brother, you know, like he's been doing this long. Like it's smart to listen. And like it's proven right where it's like he helped sculpt something that I feel like for the next songs coming out, that is a foundation. Look Away is a foundation.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's a great record.
Yeah, I really like it too. Yeah, it's awesome. And it's fun to sing.
It's also pretty special that you did it together.
On my birthday.
Whoa.
Well, let me reiterate. It started with like a couple months ago. He like texted me. He's like, "Can you record this on your phone?" And it was just like 2 notes on the guitar or 4 notes on the guitar. He's like, "Just play it like this." And he like sang it. And I was like, "Okay." Just recorded it on my phone, sent it to him. Didn't really hear anything for like a month. I didn't know what he was using it for. That's the other thing. I didn't know.
Does he not tell you? He just does?
No, he was just like, because he's asked that a couple times where he's like, "Can you just play this note a couple ways?" And like, I was like, okay, cool. And I didn't really know what it was for. And then like, I don't know, a month later, like 2 weeks before my birthday in April, he was like, "Hey, look at this." And he just like played it. And like, it was just kind of like little pieces here and there with an idea sketched out. And then I woke up 2 weeks later on my birthday and he's sitting there with our friend Cash and he's just like, "Hey, we're writing this song for you, like come now." And I was like, "What?" And I was like, just like threw on a pair of shorts and I just sat there and like just punched all the lyrics in and the idea was there. And then the rest was, yeah, he was tweaking production and it was cool because like, for example, I got to sit in on those extra sessions after where we added guitars and just extra like noise, but I got to see his process of like how to make a song build or flow with a pop record. And it's just different perspective.
What is the most crucial piece of knowledge you've gathered from working with him?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think the most important thing, hands down, because you said it before, where the sound shaping aspect of his music is like, obviously, like, don't chase what the present sound is now. The vocal chops, the trap hats, etc. Like, those are cool elements and they'll still be around for a little bit, but it's like try to push it. Like, you can use things like that, but then also try to make it yourself. And I mean, I think the biggest element, like actually learning the pop structure to his definition, where I've taken sessions from him, from his hard drive. Like, I've asked him to, obviously. And I would just sit there and I would just mute the vocal and I would sit there track by track and be like, okay, he did this. How did he do this? Like, this noise. I didn't even hear that noise in the song. And, yeah, I mean.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he gave me the session he gave me a couple of sessions. But the one that stuck out a lot was like Attention, for example, where I just sat there, I muted his vocal, and I just went through all the tracks. And I was just like trying to figure out like how he programmed things or how he thought like this noise should come here, or there should be this like 4-bar space in the second verse, and then all the elements come back in. And it's just kind of like reading a book, and you retain some of it, and then you try to apply it yourself. You don't necessarily try to copy it, but rather you view the structure, not the sound.
Yeah, and then you make it your own.
Yeah.
How do your parents feel that you guys are doing this together? I mean, really, all 3 kids are kind of rowing in the same direction.
I think it's expectation. I don't think they're not surprised. Literally, for my sake, my mom from age 15, she's like, you shouldn't be playing hockey. You should be doing music. And I was like, she's like, you shouldn't be trying to work in finance. You should be doing music. I'm like, I'm gonna get a real job, Mom. And well, that worked out.
You fought it, and she knew.
Yeah, but I think the expectation of, we're a very there's no such thing as privacy in our family, which is a good thing. Meaning, like, literally, we're on top of all each other. You can't. And I tend to honestly be like the black sheep who like tries to like hide, and like it's like, where's Steven today? What's he doing? And I've learned over time that's just not how we operate, and it's a good thing, because it's also what holds you accountable. Because, for example, it's easy to wake up at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or like go out 5 days a week as a early 20-year-old, 25, But it's a lot harder to do that when, like, for example, living with my brother, every day I'm waking up and at 9 a.m. I hear just a huge subwoofer going because he's already up working. And I'm like,
he's motivating you.
And I'm like,
around it.
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, well, I should be working. And it's like, I tend to work later into the night anyway, but still, it's just that constant flow of energy. Or when my sister's like, we're doing this today, or you need to do this, or it's just like you're being checked for reality, because the whole marathon of this industry is consistency. And obviously you need your team, but in my case, my team just happens to be my family, and vice versa. So it's like it's definitely, it's not pressure, but rather it's just motivation.
Yeah. And also, it's the right type of motivation, because anything they say to you, it can't hurt you. I mean, it can hurt you, but it should motivate you. Do you get what I'm saying? It's coming from a place of love, no matter what it is.
Right. It's never sugar coated. That's for sure.
I feel like you were just hit with a bunch of just flooded with flashbacks of moments.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I think right now, for example, I'm still sometimes emotionally attached to songs that I write the day before. Yeah. And then when reality hits me in the face, and everyone, including my mother, my sister, my brother, goes, no, this song's not right. They're not saying it, like at first when my mom used to say that, I'd be like, she doesn't know what pop music is. She's older. And that's just not true, like, at all. Like, at the end of the day, like, she could still hear like what makes a good song. And then obviously my brother and sister, same exact factors. But I'm emotionally biased at first, where I'm just like, no, this means the world to me. And then like I listen to it 3 weeks later, and I'm like, why was I so attached to that? And I think that's where the youngest child immaturity aspect can come in sometimes.
Have you, I don't want to ask you why you're so attached to it, because I understand. Like, it's like a day's work if you look at it the same way.
Right.
But if you work at an office, almost every day ends up blending into one another, unless you have those outstanding days that really mean something.
Right. I think the difference is that most office jobs, I mean, they don't require you to reflect
on life
and define emotion. No, I mean, It is a part of their life, but rather emotion and feeling. Like, I feel like I'm always intrigued, like, if people who don't do music, if they're ever associated with people that do music, date or marry, like, what their perspective is, because their job as a writer is to overanalyze, like, hard feelings to the point that sometimes they might become emotionless to it, where it's like, like, the perfect example, I mean, like, songs generally are written, they can be written in a day, that week, or like parts over time or months. But it's like every, like I like this one song one time. It was James Blunt, Goodbye My Lover.
Oh.
When I was 14, random, right? I never even kissed a girl in my life at that point. But for some reason that song struck a nerve, and I felt so sad, and I was like, this means everything. Like, the lyrics are crazy. And my guess is that song was probably written, I don't know, could be written in like 4 hours, could have been written in 1 hour, could have been written over the course of a week. Who knows? But it's like there is a part of you that in order to write really emotional, meaningful things, melodically, lyrically, etc., you have to almost detach yourself emotionally to the emotion sometimes, if that makes sense.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Do you detach yourself to understand how it should be structured and the marketability of a record, or just the fact that like that's the business and
Just the honesty. For example, if you write a song that you're emotionally attached to, it's defining your breakup that you're going through right now as a writer or an artist, so be it. You have to realize that whatever you're writing, if it's not resonating with the general public, or if it's not simply relatable, it's like I could say something like, I'm trying to think of something that's gonna sound cheesy regardless, but it's like, oh, I miss the smell of your Chanel number 5 on my, I don't know, white linens. It's like that. It's really specific, but some people might just go, dude, what? And like you gotta be honest with yourself. You gotta tailor it in. It's gotta have a structure, a rhythm, and it's gotta still retain that meaning. It's like a huge catch-22, which is fun.
I get it.
Yeah.
What are you thinking over there, Daniel?
Just listening and learning.
Are you giving off a sexual vibe?
No, I'm not.
All them other dudes were average. It's fine. They were practice. Beautiful.
Grammatically, it was practice in the song.
Oh, sorry.
No, like, I mean, you took the high road of being actually like correct. I actually, when I was writing that, I looked with my buddy and I said to him like, yo, don't you think it should be were, right? Because I accidentally was messing around and I was like, was practice. And he was like, nah, keep it. It's cool. And I was like, no, but like, you don't understand. Like, grammar that isn't right really bothers me. And he's like, well, now I'm definitely going to make you keep it. Because now you're going to have to sing it.
You have 3 records out now. Sexual Vibe, Half Gone, Look Away. Are they, I don't want to say connected, but like, are they all like kind of a quest for you to figure out your sound and define who you are as an artist?
Absolutely. I think, I mean, the way that the songs came to be, yeah, I mean, are they all connected by the voice? Yes, but sonically, like, there's definitely an evolution. Sexual Vibe starts like, it's almost band-like, retro band throwback. And to be honest, I think that was just showing at my point. I wasn't that sick of I'm still not that great. I'm getting better, like, but that was my ability of production. Like, that was my, like...
That was your peak.
At that point.
Got it.
Where a lot of it, I was relying on live instruments, where I could program drums a little bit. I could add, like, a nice synth here and there. But I couldn't do, like, some tricky stuff. Mm. So I think that's... Not that it was sloppy, but I think the looseness, if that's a word. We're going to make up a word. The fluidity of the song. Say a bigger word now. That's what kind of made the song interesting, because there were imperfections within it, because I didn't know how to do some stuff. And then I actually asked a friend to help finish it with the production, and he liked the fact that it was imperfect. And he was like, I'm going to work off that to make it imperfect. And I was like, no, I was hoping you could like clean it. And then it created this retro sounding vibe where I was just like, okay, we could roll with it. And then, yeah, the second song, my other friends, I did a couple things, but they primarily...
Half Gone?
Yeah. They primarily produced, like, the bulk of it. And it was cleaner. It was more, like, pop-leaning. It wasn't as... Like, you couldn't really tell a Sexual Vibe. Like, is this a pop record or is this just, like, an indie record?
It's just a good record.
It was different, but I liked it. And Half Gone was a little bit more of an attempt. Like, here's a cleaner pop record. But also, that's just what the noise is called for, the sounds called for with the song. The actual meaning of the song, the melody of the song. It's just, that's what kind of like was to be. You couldn't do, like, if someone said to me like, oh, can you produce Half Gone like Sexual Vibe? It would have just sounded like, I mean, the rhythms are different. The cadences, the way the song was written, it just wouldn't sound it wouldn't sound right. So it was just a different style. And yeah, different style of sound, trying things out. And then, yeah, you get to Look Away, which is now, you see the progression of, okay, the noises, everything, his voice is getting better. Like, there's more confidence as each song grows.
More vocal range in Look Away.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I don't know if insecure is the right term, but I just never really liked to use my falsetto. I always thought I had to use like the manly voice, like the power, like and that sounded weird. But just actually, because the problem was when I would use my high voice, the head voice, falsetto, whatever you want to call it, I didn't really like, I couldn't tame it. It was very unpredictable. It's like I could get a couple notes and then maybe if it was depending where I would fall, like I didn't have practice with it.
So do you teach yourself or do you go to a coach?
I mean, like, yeah, I have a vocal coach, but also, yeah, it's just over time, it's just becoming more comfortable with it, where I'm just, I guess I have this, it was both. Like, I had a part in my brain where I was like, just get good at it and just start using it more. Same thing with guitar. I actually, up until like, I don't even know, like up until like 6 months ago, maybe, my biggest fear was playing a guitar while singing at the same time, because I can't strum and sing at the same time, is what I was telling myself. And as a result, I literally couldn't strum. I was only good at finger picking, because I loved James Taylor records growing up. So that's how I taught myself guitar. I'd listen to those. So I could emulate a James Taylor record and sing at the same time, but I couldn't strum basic chords and sing at the same time.
But you were telling yourself that you can't.
Exactly. And then when I had a showcase, I was just like, okay, I can strum. And I was just like, I know how to strum. It's fine. And the thing that tricked me was when I would sit and try to strum, it was a struggle. When I stood, played the guitar, and strum, I could suddenly strum, because I would convince myself, oh, I have to be standing. That's the only way I can strum and sing.
Dude.
And then now I can sit or stand.
I used to wear the same pair of shoes every day for 2.5 years because I was convinced that I couldn't do a radio show without wearing this pair of shoes. I told myself I couldn't do the show without the shoes. But the second you tell yourself you could do something and then you do it, everything kind of clicks. I get that. You stand in your own way.
So my question to you then is, were these shoes, were they kind of like house slippers? Would they ever leave the, because here's
I'm gonna be honest, because I've experienced this twice in my life that I've battled this. The most recent was with a pair of UGG house slippers. I call them sneaker slips.
I love Uggs.
Oh, they're the best.
They're great.
And
it's not weird.
I've worn them every day for years, right, Dan?
Yep.
And then in New York, it was a whole different thing. There was another pair of shoes that I was obsessed with, and I wore that for 1.5 years straight. So.
But they wouldn't leave the studio?
Oh, no. They would leave with me. They would leave on my feet, and then I'd come with them on my feet.
Okay, so in theory, what happens if you stepped outside, it was in New York, and you stepped in the lovely, like, rainwater sewer
I would wear
puddle?
them anyway.
Even if they became rancid?
Yeah, I would figure it out. I'd put them in a dryer.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm
just curious.
I bought like 4 pairs of the same house slipper, so I had backups. Because then I was like, maybe it's not the shoe, maybe it's the comfort of the shoe. I have this whole thing.
So like at first when you had 4 pairs of shoes, you were like, I'm not wearing the right ones today, or I wore pair number 2 last Wednesday, and today's Wednesday, and I'm on pair number 4.
A good healthy rotation that makes sense.
But it's weird. We have like these, it's like superstitions or tweaks.
Yeah, it's like a little OCD, I guess. But ultimately, what it boils down to is we're standing in our own way. So it's weird.
Absolutely.
The second you're able to stand up, you strum. The fact that you couldn't strum and sing at the same time is because you told yourself you could not do that.
It was crazy.
How many other records do you have ready to go?
How many records? I mean, I think that's the new part. Like we have a couple things now. Like at first I thought I had a body of work. I was like, I'm ready to go, and it's like we've ruled a couple out. Now we're like, okay, let's start here. I think will be the next one is really nice. It's different. It's cool. But I think it still falls into the evolution of here's Look Away, now here's this next song.
Is Charlie doing that one too?
He's helping with it. If this one is the one, then yeah, he's definitely helping. He's taking a role where, I mean, he's being involved where he's at least, maybe he's not necessarily going to produce everything, but rather or maybe he does, who knows? But rather, if there's an idea that I do, and he hears it and he goes, "Oh, we could flip this one," or if he hears a song from a friend or whatever, it's just wherever it can come from. And then if it's just suitable, That's the other thing I've kind of realized. I love writing, and I write every week, or try to almost every day when if I don't get burnt out. But just because I'm writing songs, it doesn't mean every single song has to always be for me. It's always good to take outside inspiration, and then maybe you tweak something, or maybe it's exactly the way it is, and you go, this is just a great song, but I really connect to it. And I think that's cool because, that writer, whoever, like, they get their recognition, and especially if your voice is doing their song justice, but also you're the artist, you are performing their song, you're making it come to life. So there's no need to be prideful of whether you fully wrote it or you started the idea yourself. And
that's when all the pieces of the puzzle come together. That's when it all works.
Yeah.
It's collaboration.
I think exactly. And I think at first I wanted to try to do everything by myself. And, I think through time, I still will do songs where I'm like, I'll do it top to bottom as much as by myself. But just because I do that, like, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a me song. That I could just say that I did that, and it's practice to get better. So then when that day does come, it's like, cool, I did this. And it wasn't just like an okay song. It was a really good song.
But in order to be successful, you got to kind of put your pride aside, right?
Absolutely.
Because that's also how you learn.
I think that's what I've definitely been learning, yeah. There's just, no ego, no pride. And especially if you can find ways to just connect to the collaboration, have a positive outlook, Yeah,
you win either way. Whether you walk out of the room with a record or not, you're walking away with knowledge.
Of course.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Stephen Puth, any final thoughts, Dan?
No.
You talked a lot, my friend.
My best.
Half Gone, Sexual Vibe, Look Away. Phenomenal record. You used to look in my eyes, and now you look away. A record about somebody, what? My final question is, when you sing that record, what do you think about? Is it a breakup, or is it...
That's what's fun, because for me, I could think about it in a couple things where it could be like a silent breakup, like from my experiences with my relationships, where I can think of a bunch of times where it wasn't like this huge fight. It was just rather like you could just tell it was kind of fading. And then now you have to figure out how to take the high road without feeling hurt or without hurting feelings. But then also, you could also think about the times when you are with people where you think you're about to break up, and it's literally just all in your head. When you go to the last set of the lyrics, maybe you're so beautiful, beautiful, it makes me insecure. It's like, it's applicable in both. It's just that feeling of like,
you can't look at somebody. It's overwhelming. It's too much.
It's actually really funny because someone said, not that I agree with this, but somebody was like, oh, I kind of wish the song was called Paranoid. And I was like, really, as a title? Like, that's not like that. That word isn't used in the chorus. I was looking at you the other day. You used to look at my, But they made a good point in the sense, it's like a motif to the song. It's an underlying, It's kind of like if it was like one of those old 2000 titles. It's like Paranoid would be in parentheses or something. Yeah. And it kind of makes sense because there is this unsettlement when you're actually listening to the performance of the vocal and the lyrics. It's almost kind of unsteady, like anxious feeling.
Yeah, it's nervy. It's like shifty.
And the video too, I think it has a great depiction of that too, where, I wasn't sitting there like smiling, being like I'm on screen. It was kind of eerie and not creepy, but just like upsetting almost. And I thought that really added justice to the song, that paranoia motif.
Listen to it. It deserves your ear. Look Away, Stephen Puth, both deserve your ear. Thanks for hanging out, man.
Thanks for having me, Zach.
And giving us energy. It really means a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stephen Puth, everybody.
All right. Yeah.
I really hope you enjoyed that conversation. If you did, please subscribe and also check out our podcast. There's a link in the description, and also comment and like and do things. Other interviews are on the screen somewhere, so click them. Thanks for watching.